House Minority Whip joins us now. Leader Hoyer. Last time I saw a great Maryland game. It was like when it a week and a half ago. I don't know what you're talking about. Really, there are glimpses of brilliance, Stenny. But
you know, we've got a really good team, Joe. But yeah. They don't play consistently.
They've knocked off some. They've knocked off some big
big Duke.
Yeah,
that was a big game.
They beat Duke.
Yeah.
It's going to happen probably, Stenny, don't you think? And I've got a couple of like big picture questions to ask you for you to answer. Okay. Yesterday we had Roger Altman say what we ought to do is do like $9 billion this year, and then put the other $76 billion along with the other 9 years, and not get rid of the overall cuts, but just back end loaded. Does that make sense? Are we sure the economy is going to be more able to withstand this a year from now than now?
Well, I think that does make sense. I think Roger Altman is correct on this. And in fact, that's what, of course, Simpson Bowles recommended as well, as you recall, and Domenici Rivlin. All of the bipartisan commissions have said, look, the economy is still trying to get going. It's going, but not fast enough. We need to create more jobs, grow the economy more. So don't tamp it down in the short term, but in the long term, get us to a fiscally balanced position. I think that will give confidence to the market, so I think that recommendation is a good one. In fact, Joe, as you know, Chris Van Hollen, on our behalf, has offered that 2 weeks in a row. We weren't here last week. We weren't working last week, notwithstanding the specter of this deep across-the-board cut that's being proposed. The fact of the matter is we have nothing on the floor to do that. But I think Altman is correct. What we ought to do and what we've proposed and what we're going to propose again this week is to make cuts, to have revenues, to make cuts, balanced package, about $100 billion over 10 years. Do it in a way that will not harm the economy, but will get to the fiscal discipline that we need.
You think that, Danny, the other question, this big picture question, if you were a surgeon, you could find $85 billion in the discretionary side that is duplicative or waste or whatever. I mean, you're not saying that we couldn't find a way to do that, are you?
I think that's correct, Joe. The problem is that the Republicans in the House of Representatives, we can't put a bill on the floor. Can do that. They can put forward a bill that says here how we're going to cut the $85 billion. They haven't done that. We've been in session now for 2 months, and the Republicans have not put a single bill on the House floor, which they have sole responsibility for doing, which have accomplished the objective and replaced the sequester. Everybody agrees the sequester is irrational because it cuts the highest priority and the lowest priority the same amount. That doesn't make sense. We all know it doesn't make sense. But very frankly, I've been here for some time, as you know, Joe, and year after year, long before 2010, year after year, we had Republicans offering 6%, 2% cuts across the board. Most appropriators and most members of Congress, Republican and Democrats, have opposed those bills, but it is a consistent policy of thinking the way to cut is just across the board without respect to priority.
Here's my one other question, Stenny.
Okay.
You saw the payroll tax. We know that tax probably does hurt job creation somehow because it hurts the consumer. You see the austerity that Europe has tried to orchestrate. A lot of that was in tax increases. Republicans at this point are chafing at the idea of balance and more revenue increase. Do you ever worry that along with the Obamacare and what we're going to pay in extra taxes there, along with what you got with the fiscal cliff negotiation, do you ever worry that maybe that always talking about revenue could eventually hurt job creation and come back to be counterproductive for what we're trying to do here?
Joe, I think we have to look at that, but the fact is, no, I don't worry about it. Very frankly, when we had the Clinton rates in place, which we're not close to at this point in time, we had the best economy that you and I have seen in our lifetimes, frankly, in the 1990s. Now, there were a lot of factors surrounding that, particularly the IT explosion, the information technology explosion was the driver of that. But the tax policies that were in place did not tamp that down. And in fact, the fiscal stability, the fact that we had a balanced budget for 4 years during the Clinton administration, gave confidence to the investing community that their investments would not be eaten up by inflation or by government policy. So, no, I'm not worried about that. What we do need, however, is a balanced package over 10 years, big, bold, balanced package. I think that will give extraordinary confidence to the marketplace and will grow our economy irrespective of the tax level. Now, when I say that, I want to make it clear, I don't mean that we can have tax levels so high that we undermine incentives, but we're nowhere close to that.
Representative Hoyer, didn't the Graham-Rudman-like sequestration provisions really set the stage for this fiscal balance that you're alluding to under Bill Clinton? Doesn't it show that Congress is incapable of doing these things on its own, that it needs to be constrained by more of a rules-based budget control mechanism?
Well, of course, that's not what we're talking about now. This sequestration is not a long-term. It's a single event at this point in time. The fact is, though, that
it's a 10-year program, because you guys can't get your act together in the Congress.
There's no doubt about that. We can't get our act together, but we did get our act together in the 90s. Every Republican opposed it, of course. In 1993, we adopted a program that our Republican colleagues said would destroy the economy. They were dead flat wrong. And what we did was we adopted a pay-as-you-go with a bipartisan agreement between the first George Bush and Dick Gephardt, then in 1997 between Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton, and that balanced program allowed us to have a very robust economy in which we grew 22+ million jobs during that period of time. So a balanced program will get us to where we need to be. Unfortunately, our Republican colleagues are not looking at balance.
All right, Stanley, thanks. Working on that statue. I don't know. It's not a good time in Washington for.
I don't think anybody wants to build a statue to any member of Congress right now.
Yeah, all right. Anyway, thanks. We appreciate it when you come on. Anyway, coming up on.